Andy's not here today, so it's a little way.
All right.
You ready? All right, good morning, everyone. This is the meeting of the Lewis and Clark County Commissioners for today's Thursday, October 9th. And we'll start off with pledge allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Well, I'd like to welcome everybody to this little gathering. I am Candace Payne, Commission Chair, another 2 months. And to my left is Commissioner Tom Rolfe. Good morning, Thomas.
Good morning, Chair Payne.
And to Tom's immediate left is Brandy, our recording secretary. And to her left is Jenny Chambers, who is pretty much the queen of everything. Yeah, she runs public works and all kinds of things. You'll notice who is missing from our group here today is Mr. Andy Hunthausen, but he's at a very important meeting out of town. To my immediate right then is Mr. Nico Hash and Mr. TJ Murray. TJ Murphy. Well, he still doesn't have a name sign, so that's my excuse. I did get all the words out just to get it on the right order. They are from the county attorney's office and will keep us out of trouble. Mr. Roger Baltz is the CAO for the county. Good morning, Mark.
Good morning.
Oh, we have a sign-in sheet right there in front of Christal Ness. For people who are attending this meeting, and I urge you to sign in, pick up an agenda, and a pen if you want to write notes in the corner of whatever you have to write on. Let's see, did I do it? Oh, and you can pick up an agenda if you want one. So now we're moving right along to the consent action items, which will be presented by our friend Roger Baltz.
Chair Payne and Commissioner Rolfe, item 2A on the agenda today is vendor claims report for week ending October 10, 2025. Staff recommends approval, and Marni Bentley is here as usual for this item. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Roger. Is there any questions from the commission? Is there any public comment? Seeing no public comment, could I have a motion, please?
Chair Payne, I would move to approve consent action item 2A as explained by Roger Baltz.
Second. Is there any further comment from the commission?
Just one thing, I just want to thank Marni for sending out an email so that we go through all the items that are being paid over the last couple of weeks and make a chance that we review those before they go out. So thank you for your patience.
Okay, been moved and seconded. We've had our little comment section, and now we can have a vote. All in favor of approving vendor claim report for the week ending October 10th, 2025, indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion passes unanimously. Moving now to the action items. Action item 3A. This is a grant task order 24-07-7-11-157-0, amendment 2 between Lewis and Clark County and the Montana Department of Public Health and Human Services. And this will be presented by our friend Fred Sargeson. Is the G hard or something?
The hard G.
For Sargeson. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Chair Payne. Members of the commission, as we discussed, this commissioners will consider approval of grant task order 24/7/11/157/0, amendment 2 between Lewis and Clark County and the Montana Department of Public Health and Human Services. This amendment extends the term of the task order through September 29, 2026, and adds an additional $55,910 to the grant. This grant aims to strengthen population-based lead poisoning prevention activities and enhance lead surveillance in children under 16, with a special focus on children under the age of 6 participating in Medicaid. This grant allows us to expand the services we provide in East Helena to the remainder of Lewis and Clark County. Those services include outreach and education, environmental assessments for children with elevated lead levels, and screening events. Staff recommends approval.
Thank you, Fred. Is there any questions from the commission?
Just a little clarification, it's generally came in a smaller area, and then now it's being expanded to the whole county.
So Chair Payne, Commissioner Rolfe, exactly. So this is with East Helena had the particular sort of award just for the lead control in that area. This allows us to expand that to the rest of Lewis and Clark County. So there's we have it go through our universal home visiting has the ability to test kids, and then we can work throughout the rest of the county. And if we find elevated lead levels, we can go do an assessment of their environment. And so, correct, it was just an identified need to expand beyond those boundaries of East Helena.
Thank you.
Along those same lines, are we aware of any other areas in the county that have elevated lead levels?
Chair Payne, I don't know precisely. I don't have data on the mapping. If that's an interesting question that our epidemiologist likely knows. So let me see what I can find out and reach out to you. I know that we have identified people through the testing, which could come from anywhere, even if they aren't from here. But so the idea is like can come from not just the output from the sponsor, but from aid and from old houses, things like that. So it's a good question. I will get you an answer.
That would be good. Thank you, Ben. It's an interesting project. Okay. Is there any public comment regarding this matter? Seeing no public comment. Is there? Oh, we should have a motion.
Chair Payne, I would move to approve the grant task order 24-07-7-11-157-0, amendment 2 between Lewis and Clark County and the Montana Department of Public Health and Human Services, as explained by Fred Sargeson.
Second. It's been moved and seconded that we approve this amendment 2, as explained by Fred Sargeson. And is there any other further comment from the commission? No. Okay. Seeing no further comment, let's have a vote. All those in favor of approving grant task order 24-07-7-11-157-0, as explained by Mr. Sargeson, indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion passes unanimously. Next on, morning. Next on our agenda is, this is a comment on a court-ordered division having to do with the district court and a verified petition for partition of property. And will be presented by our friend Christal Ness from the planning department.
Good morning, Chair Payne, Commissioner Rolfe, Christal Ness Development Services Supervisor. This morning you have before you the ability to comment on what is a court-ordered division on a verified petition for partition of property pursuant to the Montana Uniform Partition of Heirs Property Act. And I have to admit, this is the first time that I have seen this particular method of dividing property among heirs. So I had to educate myself a little bit. So if you don't mind, I shall educate you this morning.
We would appreciate that.
So 70-29-403, the Montana Code annotated, states that the court shall determine whether the property is the heir's property. So once Charles Grantier passed, he deeded, by his death, this property was deeded as co-tenants to all of his heirs. So he has a number of daughters, he has a son. The other person that is receiving property is the widow of one of his deceased sons and two of his grandchildren. So as of this time, they are all co-tenants of this piece of property of approximately 113 acres. So after the court determines whether or not the heirs own the property must be petitioned under this part unless all of the co-tenants otherwise agree in record. So all of the co-tenants, co-owners of the property have signed verification that they agree to the contents of the petition dividing the property. And that petition is attached to my staff report as an Exhibit A. So the property itself is located south of Lincoln. I have up here on my map. See if I can get. So we're south of Lincoln along Stemple Pass Road, which is right here, goes south into Lincoln. This is the big piece of property right here that we're dividing. Very irregularly shaped. And interestingly enough, when I was doing some research into the neighboring properties to have an understanding about wells and septic systems and all of that, a lot of the heirs actually already live on pieces of this property alongside this large piece of property. And as described in my staff report, this is actually a very large piece of ag ground that right now only has on it as a structure, a barn. It's a very large barn. The Department of Revenue seems to think it's worth a lot of money. Which is located right here.
Christal, is there I'm looking at the round, or it appears to be round parcel right there. Is that got a wheel line on it or anything?
No, it doesn't, but that was divided off of the property by Mr. Grantier himself and sold previously to another entity. My guess is that he wanted to divide this property to provide for his heirs in the form of a monetary cushion, if you will, as a lot of us folks that grow up in ag in Montana hope that we could someday provide that kind of a cushion for our heirs. So also attached to your my staff report is a copy of the survey that was presented showing the division of land. According to the petition, each one of the co-owners of this property were to receive certain percentages of property. Two of the sons were deeded a separate piece of property, property number 1, and this is property number 2 and how it's going to be divided.
Where's property number 1?
Property number 1 is also located along Stemple Pass Road. I don't have it on my map because it's not part of the division. That is going to be owned in whole and not going to be divided among the heirs. So this 113 acre piece is to be divided among the heirs. And you can see on the survey that they've provided for a number of easements to allow for access to these properties once it gets divided by the court. And one of the conditions that I have recommended on my conditions of approval or our comments to the court is that they show all of these easements on the survey. Interestingly enough, a court order division is not required to be surveyed. However, 76.3,
What could possibly go wrong?
exactly. However, 76.3.404 requires a division of land to be surveyed unless it can be described as an adequate part. And because all of these properties are so irregularly shaped, by statute, they have to be surveyed. So that's one of the recommendations that I've made in our comments is that they have to, that the certified copy of the order must be filed with the clerk and recorder, must be recorded with the clerk and recorder. So in the scheme of how documents are recorded with the clerk and recorder, because this is a court order division, the court's order would be recorded first. Certified copy of the court order would be recorded first. Then the survey would be filed. And then all of the deeds going to each one of the heirs would also be recorded. Because all of these folks now own this property as co-tenants, they must all sign the survey and they must all sign each and every one of the deeds. So my recommendation is that we send a letter to the court, instructing the court that a certified copy of the court's order should be recorded with the clerk recorder, that the court's order should instruct the co-petitioners that the certificate of survey is required to be prepared pursuant to 76.3.401, which is the requirement for these irregularly shaped parcels. And the court's order should instruct the co-petitioners that the COS shall comply with the administrative rules of Montana. That the court's order should instruct the co-petitioners that the certificate of survey should show all of the access and utility easements created by the court's order. On our survey that's been proposed, we have labels for the easements that say created by court order in parentheses under the bottom of each one of those easements. So I can only make an assumption that the court's order would create those easements and then is verified or documented on the survey that actually divides the property.
So does the survey take place before or after the judge signs the order?
Chair Payne, in the process of reviewing surveys, the court must sign the order before we will review the survey. We will review a draft copy of the survey and have the examining land surveyor review it to make sure that all of the map is correct and all of the things have been verified and placed on the face of the survey pursuant to the administrative rules. And then it'll go back to the surveyor to make any and all corrections. They will then cut Mylars, and at that point in time, the deeds will be prepared and everything will be ready to be recorded and filed with the clerk and recorder's office. So there's still a process to go through relative to the actual approving of this survey. And the court's order will come before the county reviews and approves the survey.
And who pays for the survey?
Chair Payne, the co-petitioners pay for the survey.
Always want to make sure it's not the county's burden.
Chair Payne, no, it is not the county's burden.
Okay, what an interesting project. Glad you brought this up today when we don't have a lot of other confusing things to worry about.
Chair Payne, it's a process.
Obviously it is, but there are laws, and if we follow them, 50 years from now, people will go back and say, oh, they did do a survey. That's a good thing.
Chair Payne, one of the things that we can hope for is that these recommendations that I've set forth on my staff report will be reflected in the court's order. That the court shall instruct the co-petitioners to execute each and every deed. They all have to execute the certificate of survey. And the court's order should instruct the co-petitioners that future development of the property for a residential use will require compliance with all other applicable state and local rules and regulations. So if some of these folks decide that they want to actually develop these parcels that they receive, they may or may not be required to get approach permits. They would all be required to get septic permits. A court order division is exempt from both subdivision review and the review under the Sanitation and Subdivisions Act, so DEQ won't review these parcels. But our environmental health department's rules and regulations relative to septic systems and separation from wells and those sorts of things will be adhered to.
Question if I might.
By all means.
So we're gonna do this process today, and then there'll be a second process from that later, and then that should resolve.
Chair Payne, Commissioner Rolfe, should the commission agree or decide that those recommendations are appropriate, I anticipate that I will send a letter up to Chair Payne for her signature that will then be transferred to the court.
But we could have to deal with this twice then, is that right?
Chair Payne, Commissioner Rolfe, the only other way that we'll have to deal with this is when the survey review committee actually reviews the survey.
Who is the survey review committee?
The survey review committee is a committee of individuals. County Attorney's Office comes and plays with me, myself, one of the members of the Clerk and Recorder's Office, and one of the planners. So the survey review committee meets every Wednesday afternoon. We review all exempt surveys that are recorded or that are filed with the Clerk and Recorder's Office for errors and omissions, and make sure that everything on the face of the survey meets the administrative rules.
That sounds like you have informed people making these important decisions. Any other questions?
No, I think that's all the questions I've got.
Interesting project. Is there any public comment? Seeing no public comment, do we have a motion?
Maybe I need an instruction on how to word the motion to do this properly, to approve it.
Chair Payne, Commissioner Rolfe, if the commission agrees with those recommendations that I've set forth in my staff report, I believe that that should be the motion.
All right. Chair Payne, I would move to approve the comment on the court order division explained by Christal Ness.
Second. Is there any further comment before we vote on this? Seeing none, all those in favor of approving comment on the court order division as explained by Christal Ness indicate by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, same sign. Motion passes unanimously. Thank you, Christal.
Thank you.
Boys and girls, time has come for public comment on any public matter within the jurisdiction of the commission that is not on the agenda above. Seeing none, this meeting is adjourned.